Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us for our first Founder Friday. There's still some people coming in, so I'll give it a minute. But we have James Rowe presenting today about AI, and it will be an interactive experience. So please, if you have questions throughout, feel free to ask James them as we go on. As well, at the end, we'll have a bit of a question and answer period. I don't think we'll have time today for the breakout rooms because this will be a little bit of a demo session, but at our next session, I'll make sure that we have that. This is being recorded, so if you have anyone that you want to pass it on to, I'll make sure that you all have those links, and I will pass it off to James.
All right. Thank you, Megan. Hi, everyone, and thank you for joining today. So I'm really excited about this session. My name is James Rowe, and I'm thrilled to be here today. So for those who don't know me, I'm a Foresight executive in residence. I've been part of,
Ba't printed?
oh, I think someone needs to mute, please. So I'm a Foresight executive in residence. I've been working with Foresight for about 2.5 years, and I regularly moderate the launch and pilot programs. And so as part of these programs, I've worked with dozens of clean tech startups to help them navigate the complex challenges of building their business and taking their products to market. And in addition to working with Foresight, I'm a co-founder of Circles of AI, which is what I'll be talking to you about today. And at Circles of AI, our mission is to empower non-technical business leaders to understand what the potential of generative AI is in terms of scaling up their business, particularly their internal sales and marketing processes. And so we're focusing this on hands-on practical examples, and doing that as part of our community that we're building. And where this came from is I met another executive in residence in Vancouver about 6 months ago. Her name's Rochelle Grayson. And we were discussing how through our different startup work that we saw a real gap in terms of startup founders and other business leaders we're working with. Everyone's really excited about AI, but it's not super clear on how to get started with it. And so we wanted to create a community that allowed people to get hands-on experience and just kind of get over that threshold of getting started, and then show how that can meaningfully integrate into business operations. So as part of this, every Friday, we host something called the Play Space, which is a free virtual community meetup where members of Circles of AI community can come and get hands-on experience with the latest AI tools. And so sessions are designed to guide the participants in the sessions through step-by-step workflows with these tools, so they can gain practical and actionable knowledge that they can then use in their daily work. And so in today's session, we're going to do some demos, and I'll show you some AI tools that I regularly use, and I'm going to show how to use it for market research and customizing communications. And then a little bit more about me is beyond Circles of AI, I'm a multi-time startup founder, and I have over 20 years of experience in the Vancouver community as part of leadership and technical roles with several organizations. And my focus has always been on solving important business problems through technology. And I've helped build and scale several companies, and my focus is on infrastructure and how the services scale. So really on the operations side, but from a technical perspective. And then finally, I have a newsletter that I regularly publish called Insightful Growth Navigator. And I also share AI tips for how to use AI and automation tools as part of building and scaling your businesses. And so overall, I'm pulling all this information together, and I want to be able to show you some of the practical things that I do with AI as part of market validation and customer discovery. So let's dive into this and see how we can use this to gain knowledge about markets, companies, and individuals that we do outreach to in order to create more impactful business communications. All right, so what we're going to cover today. Clean tech is a complex domain. We've got a lot of highly technical products. Often they're integrated into complex businesses and systems. There's lots of engineering, and that complexity really impacts our ability to communicate the value of these products effectively. So what I want to show is we're going to look at how AI tools can help first with market research. And I'm going to show a demo of a tool called Perplexity on how to do this. And then we're also going to then, from that market research, be able to go and go down to the next level where we're going to look at some specific companies that are part of the market that we are going to pursue. We're going to pick one and we're going to do some in-depth research on that company. And we're also going to find individuals in the company that could be good contacts to reach out to build a relationship with. And we're going to use AI tools to understand some of their background, learn about their interests, and also be able to understand their preferred communication style. We'll dig into that. And then finally, we're going to pull all this information together and then integrate it into customizing an email to do outreach in order to maximize our chances of success of making a relationship connection. So you might ask yourself, why are we focusing on market research and customer research here? And so there are some key benefits that I want to highlight. So the reason why I think this is important is, first of all, one of the areas it's really valuable for is in customer discovery and market validation. So I teach the launch program. I'm one of the moderators. We talk all about customer discovery and how to do it effectively. But one of the things that, one of the questions I often get is, how do you go from looking at the broad market and getting down and being able to engage with customers at a meaningful level to do that discovery work? This is a way that we can get some relationship connections with people to be able to go and have those conversations where when you're doing outreach, you're not just getting a polite no, I don't have time to talk to you. So this will help with that. As well, significant number of companies in the clean tech space are focused on B2B sales. So this is a tool that you can use for outbound lead generation. So when you're looking at your sales, building up that portfolio of companies and leads that you want to go after. As well, it can help with scoping and securing technical pilot projects. So another course I teach is the pilot program. And so figuring out what are the considerations around pilots and what are the problems that are really being trying to be solved, you can use these same tools to go and understand some of the company context on regulatory challenges, maybe some new information out in the public domain about challenges they have operationally, things like that. And then finally, everybody wants to raise money. So understanding, doing that research on investors and getting specific information that you can engage with them and customizing your communication. And then same thing with non-dilutive funding with grants. The things we're going to talk about today are applicable for all of these. We're going to specifically cover the sales lead generation, but you'll see how applicable it is to the other domains as well. So a little factoid for you. With some of the research that has been done recently on how AI is impacting sales, did you know that sales teams save over 2 hours a day on using AI tools to do their sales research, and that 90% of them say that it speeds up their customer service? And so what that really does is, if you're a sales development representative, you're doing a lot of, especially if you're enterprise focused, you're going out and you're doing a lot of research to gain knowledge about the company so that you can have an informed engagement with them in order to personalize your communications and be able to build that relationship and connection. Well, what AI does is it allows you to streamline this research process and scale your efforts in order to be able to do this faster. And so this is where the big time savings come in. So we're going to explore the market research side of things first. So I put together an example of some of the things here. So we're going to use a bit of a play example. So we're going to pretend that we're interested in the vertical farming equipment market. So we build, I'll get into it a bit, but we are an equipment manufacturer where we make high efficiency LED lighting systems for vertical farms. And so we want to go and explore what this market looks like. We're going to do some research on target customer segments, some of the pain points and challenges in the vertical farming market, the competitive landscape, and some market sizing. All right, so I'll just jump out of my presentation here. So we're going to use a tool called Perplexity. And at the end of my presentation, I've got links to all of these tools, so you don't have to worry too much about writing all this stuff down. So with Perplexity, this is a tool that is built on top of the Google web page search index. And what it does is it goes and it's doing a web search, and then it's pulling the different web resources, and it's summarizing and synthesizing the information into being able to answer a question. And so I'll paste a question in here in just a minute. But I'm just going to show a couple of things that you can do with this. So one of the things you can do is you can change the focus of where it's looking for information. So we can do a regular web search using indexed data, indexed web pages. You can also do academic focus searches. You can get this to solve math problems, can go into video, and it can also go in and search social networks. This is built on top of the OpenAI LLM, so ChatGPT is underneath this by default. You can also use it with other LLMs like Claude or Gemini, or the one from Meta called Llama. So you can choose that if you have a paid account. But by default, we're just going to use the free account. There's also a switch here called Pro. One of the things that Perplexity does is if you're just using the free version, they let you get a demonstration of what Pro search looks like. And so you get a maximum of 5 searches you can do per day with Pro. And what that does is it takes your question and it will restructure the question to be able to make it to align it better with the context and intent, and then use those refined questions to go search. And then it will roll the information up and give you a more comprehensive answer. But for our example today, I'm just going to use the free version without turning on Pro, and we're just going to do a straight web search. Okay, so we are going to ask a question about, we're going to start really broad here. We're going to ask for a detailed market research report for the North American vertical farming equipment industry. And we want market size, we want the growth rate, major players, trends, customer insights, and projections for growth for the next 5 to 10 years. So this is something that would take a lot of effort to go and put together if we were to go do this ourselves. So let's see what it comes back with. So what it's doing here, you can see that it's got some sources. So it shows the first 3 sources. These are web pages that it's found. And then it's got a list of all of the sources. So it's pulled 8 different web pages. And so we can go and read through these pages if we're interested. As well, what it's doing is it is going then and giving us the summary from all of this. So I'm not going to read through all of this, but I'll just show the highlights here. So it gives us a market size and growth. And then these little citations here, it gives us which of the web sources it pulled this information from. So North American market's $2.5 billion, expected to grow up to 12.4 with 25% compound annual growth rate, which is great. This is a fast growing market. Some of the key players. So these are the biggest farms. So these are equipment makers for the market here. So it tells us the players, gives us some segmentation. So building-based vertical farms are the dominant one, but there's also ship-based containers farming. And then also talks about components. So what hardware? So remember I said that we were a lighting company? Well, interesting. So hardware is 63% of the market share, and LED lighting is almost 40% of that. So this is a good amount of money being spent in this space. Different crops, some of the trends and drivers. Customer insights. So consumers are looking for transparency in their food production, and they want locally grown and pesticide-free produce. So there's end user demand for this. and then some of the challenges and future outlook. So great. We've got a nice broad market research report here now. But let's go a little bit deeper. So let's ask some follow-up questions. I should mention, I would like this to be an interactive session. So there's time for questions. If anybody has questions, please speak up. Unfortunately, I can't see raised hands with the way I've got things set up here with sharing my screen. But if Megan, maybe you can just watch the chat and see if there's any questions, and happy to answer questions along the way here. All right, so the next question we're going to ask of Perplexity is we're going to ask about primary customer groups in North America. And because we're a BC-based company, we're particularly focused on Canada and British Columbia. So yeah, I speak from my personal geographic location on BC. Okay, so let's ask this question.
James, we have a question. Would the follow-up questions count towards the 5 free searches a day?
They do if you keep this Pro on. If the Pro is turned off, it doesn't count. So I will turn Pro on here and for one of the other questions, just so you can see how it works. All right, so this question, we asked about market segments. We've got urban farmers and entrepreneurs, commercial growers, restaurants and grocery chains, government, and interesting, pharmaceutical and nutraceutical companies. So we've got some initial segments we can start to explore and look at. Now, each of these may have different needs. So again, if we think about our lighting solution, what would be the different considerations for each of these segments? We can ask additional follow-up questions and dig deeper into that. And then some of the challenges that that are driving the adoption of vertical farming. Land is becoming more expensive and scarce, so outdoor farming is can be challenging. You can do year-round production, so in Canada that's a big deal, especially up north. Sustainability and resource efficiency, which we're all interested in, and then reducing food miles, demand for local organic produce. So I'll put in one more here, just so we can see what Pro looks like. I'll ask one more question, and then we'll move on to the next part here afterwards. So I'm going to ask another follow-up question about competition. And so what key competitors in the vertical farming equipment industry within North America. And I'm going to add to this. So key competitors in farming equipment, specifically LED lighting solutions. Okay, so we're going to use Pro now. And so what it's going to do, so in here you can see what it's doing is it's rewording my question. And it's going through a series of steps to go collect the inputs, gather that information about their specific products and solutions, and then it's going to be able to do an analysis of that and give us that result. This is a lot more comprehensive, where it's really synthesizing that information to then be able to give a more comprehensive answer. And if you want to see what it's doing, you can see it. So this one did 3 different searches. And then it gathered that information. So this was just the AI system was actually analyzing the data. And then it actually did some programming to go figure out how to connect it. So it's in a series of steps. All right, so here's what it's come back with. So it's pulled a bunch of sources. We've got 36 sources, so that's why it took a little bit longer than the other ones there. It's a lot more comprehensive in the Pro mode. And then it synthesized that and created this table. So it's looked at each of these companies, talks about what products they create, the key features and strengths and weaknesses. So we've got a kind of a SWOT analysis for our competition. But this, imagine how much time it would have taken to go through, find all of these competitors, go to their websites, go pull all the specifications, and then look at the comparison of the strengths and weaknesses of each of these, and then be able to compare that to your own. So this is a very powerful tool from gathering that kind of information. And then it gives some summary to synthesize and tell us what some of the top ones are. So anyway, it's got a whole bunch of information there. I won't spend too much more time on that. But before I move on from market research, are there any questions about what I've shown here, about the Perplexity tool, or does anyone have any questions, follow-up things that they would like to see here asked of about vertical farming?
James, do you know how much it costs to have the pro version versus the free?
I don't know the exact price, but I believe it's around $20 US a month. So it's not particularly expensive. So I know some people who rather than buy a ChatGPT subscription, they actually use Perplexity because of what you can do in here. Actually, I don't think you can do it here. No. What you can do with it is you can you can use Perplexity like you're using ChatGPT. You can ask it to do things for you. And so you're engaging with the ChatGPT interface through Perplexity, but you also get all of the research and the information synthesis as part of that.
We have a question in the chat asking, curious your take on the expected or typical accuracy of results in searches like this.
Yes. So I'll touch on this at the end of the session when we talk about data privacy and ethics and accuracy. But just quickly, the reason I highlighted all of these sources is what I like about Perplexity is this isn't just giving you a synthesis without being able to cite the resources that it pulled information from. So for convenience, it gives you a summary and an answer, but this is stuff that the AI can make mistakes and often does make mistakes. I will say that I found Perplexity is particularly trustworthy. I've had good results from it, but buyer beware. You always need to validate and confirm that the information it's giving you is correct. So this can speed up your process, but you still need to go and confirm and validate that the stuff is correct. Now, I will say that for market research and company research, this is great for giving you information that you can use for, I'll call it broad directional decision making. But ultimately, this comes back to doing your customer discovery, your engagement with customers out in the market to actually validate that these things are true. That's where you're really going to get the true feedback. And so I would be cautious about using something super concrete. Like if you wanted to go and talk to Signify Holding and you told them, I understand that the strengths of your product are X, Y, and Z. I would be cautious about that because this may not have analyzed and synthesized the information properly. Instead, I would go in and maybe ask some questions about it, about their strengths and weaknesses, and engage them in a way like that. So just be careful how you use the information if you're not 100% confident on it.
Perfect. Thank you.
Okay. All right. So I'm going to now switch back. I know that was just a really quick demo of market research, but you can see the power of this and how quickly, by asking the right questions and be able to dig down, you can actually go and get a tremendous amount of information quickly. All right. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to then do some tailored company insights. So, we sell LED lighting for vertical farms. I'll go back. I forgot to ask one of the questions, but I wanted to list the leading US-based vertical farming companies, but I'll come back to it and show that in a minute. But then we're going to go and look at Aero Farms, which is the top operator of vertical farms in the US. And we're going to go and look and see if would they be a good potential lead for our LED lighting products. We're going to look at company size and revenue, the growth and expansion plans, and some of the key decision makers there. And I'm going to introduce a new tool called Apollo.io that we'll use as part of this. All right, so I will just ask this last question about in Perplexity here about the the leading US-based vertical farming companies. All right, so you can see Arrow Farms there is right at the top. And so we've got a little bit of information about it. So they have their own technology that they're using for their aeroponic technology for growing leafy greens. Excuse me. They're also certified B Corp, so they're focused on sustainability. They're very much on the mindset of being sustainable and eco-friendly. And they've we'll see as they're quite a large company. Okay, so let's go and ask some questions to go a little bit deeper now into the company here. So what we want to do is search for information about their company size and their expansion plans. So what you'll find here is that Arrow Farms is actually a publicly traded company. So they're quite large, got about 150 employees, but they've recently seen a decrease in employee count. So it's interesting. Doing a fair amount of revenue. They've raised a lot of money, and they just raised recently about 3 months ago. So it looks like they might be in growth mode. So they're actively scaling. They've got a pipeline of farms they're developing. So great. We're selling lighting systems. If they're growing and expanding, they probably need new lighting systems for their new farms. Cool. Okay. Looks like they could be a good candidate for us. So let's dig a little bit further into their technology. So what lighting technologies do they currently use, and who is their supplier? Let's see if we can find some public information about this. So remember, all of this that we're asking, this is all publicly accessible information. This is through web searches, and it's going and digging into the equivalent of a Google search. All right, so based on what we've asked here, so they use their own proprietary LED lighting technology. So they don't outsource this currently. And they've got their own lighting algorithms. And so this seems to be a core intellectual property for them. So maybe they're not a great candidate. We'll see. I see some questions coming in. Maybe I'll pause here for a minute and just see if there's some questions. So find details about their capital raises. Yes, we can find information about their capital raises, and I'll show that in just 1 second. Okay. But before we leave Perplexity, I'm going to ask one more question here. We're going to dig a little bit more into their operations. Okay, so I want to understand, do they have any operational challenges that are related to LED lighting? So maybe it's not working as well as they expected, or they're not able to get enough supply to expand as quickly as they expect. Just see if there's any news about that. Okay, so nothing that Arrow Farms that is public knowledge about this, but there is information about other companies that may have issues about their lighting systems. So one of the things that's interesting is LED lighting is it's 50% of the capital expenditure of a new vertical farm. So it's very significant in terms of capital needs. So that's interesting. And then so there's heat issues that will cause problems in the greenhouse or their facility, and then energy cost usage. So here's some ideas that we could use maybe for ways to reach out to them to have a conversation. Okay, so there's a question about let's ask about their capital raises. Let's search for information about Arrow Farms recent capital fundraising. Any okay, so we've got some information that we can go and do a deeper assessment of. So maybe we go and look on some of the fundraising websites. I'm blanking on the names of the different sites that you can go check this on, but I guess Crunchbase and Dealbook and stuff like that. But there's another one that I can't think of right now. But you can go and look into more details about that. All right.
Yeah, Sunny, come here, boy. Stop scratching.
Oh, somebody's not muted, and I'm hearing some crosstalk here.
James, thank you.
Yes.
It's Maria. Um, I just learned that this company has gone bankrupt. Actually, Arjun just mentioned it.
Yep.
However, is there a way with any other company? Is there a way we can find out some information on the valuations or the revenue multiples used for the capital raises in those segments, in those type of companies?
Yeah. I mean, you can try.
Some information is public, others are not, but it's so hard to find it.
Yeah. So I haven't tried that with Perplexity, but I would say I would try doing that. And unfortunately, we don't really have time for demoing that right here. But I think that's a great use case for being able to do some research here and look into public information about bankruptcies or
Thank you.
those types of things,
Yeah.
valuations and stuff.
And another last question is, would you recommend to have Perplexity instead of OpenAI or both or what?
I would recommend that you try Perplexity. Try it with the free version. Try the 5 free pro searches, and you can decide, like, assess for yourself if this is valuable to you. Um, I don't use it enough to do this research to justify paying for it every month. And the other thing you can do is you can just pay for 1 month. You don't have to buy a long-term subscription. So if you have a particular place where you're doing a lot of searches, it might be worth buying a 1 month subscription, do all your searching and research, and then cancel your subscription. But it will depend on how you're planning to use it. Okay. So I'm going to switch now to another tool called Apollo. And just in the sake of time, I want to make sure that we are able to cover all these tools. So Apollo.io is a tool that's it's a sales lead generation tool. That's what it's intended for. But I really like it for doing company research and also finding individuals to be able to do outreach to. There's a whole bunch of other features in here that you can do automation of sales outreach through email, phone calls, and other sequences. And it also can do assessments of your meetings and stuff. I won't talk about that today, but if you're interested, there's lots more in here. But what we're going to do is we're going to go and use it to to access information about arrow farms. So what this Apollo is it's a giant database of company information as well as people information connected to those companies. And it's created by going out and doing web scraping from social media, LinkedIn, websites, and it collects this information and pulls it into its database. So this is all information that's out in the public domain. It's publicly accessible. I'm using a free version of Apollo, so what I'm showing you here is all accessible for free. It's amazing what you can actually get access to. So let's look up arrow farms here. All right. So we've got a company overview. One of the largest vertical farming companies. They grow microgreens, blah, blah, blah. So we can use that information if we want. I can see it's 150 employees. It's got $30 million in revenue. They're based in Virginia. Oops. All right. Break that back down. They're publicly traded on the NASDAQ, and they founded 20 years ago. So they've been around for a long time. Over here, we've got potential prospects that we can engage with. So they've got a list of 103 people. That's too many, so we don't want to know about everybody that works there. We really want to look at director level or higher. So that shrinks it down to 22. And if we just want to look at the C-suite leaders that are listed here, it looks like they only have one listed. There's probably more, but it means that Apollo wasn't able to confidently identify them as C-suite. So we'll just look at the director level here. Some of the other things it gives you is some of the insights. So there's questions about funding rounds. So in this case, it doesn't have details available, but if there's public information, you can get information about their funding. You can get the latest news here. So there was a message about bankruptcy. Yeah, so it looks like Arrow Farms went into Chapter 11 bankruptcy. So they filed that in June of last year, and they came out in September. So they've had a restructuring. They had some issues that they ran into. You can also look at employee trends. You can see they've had a fairly significant headcount reduction, probably corresponds with their bankruptcy, yeah, around June there. Yeah, looks about right. So that they, in terms of growth, it looks like maybe they're not in growth mode right now, but you can get some trend information from that. So what we want to do now is I want to go and find an individual I can talk to and get some engagement. So actually, you know what? Before I do that, bankruptcy information is interesting. I want to find out a little bit more about that. So let's go back to Perplexity here for a second. Let's ask a follow-up question about the Chapter 11 bankruptcy and reorganization. So what's their current operating status? All right. So they filed in June. They went through a reorg where they shed their debt and recapitalized. They've had some leadership changes. So now we've got some names of C-suite leadership. And then they emerged from bankruptcy in September. And looks like their products are available. Okay, so they're doing all right. They've got their products in 2,000 retail locations, including Whole Foods. So the bankruptcy doesn't seem to have set them back from a sales perspective, so that's good. Okay, going back to Apollo. So now that we've got these directors, let's think about, I want to reach out to somebody who's on the operations side. So I'm going to look through their titles and see who might be a good fit. So we've got engineering here, we've got new farms. Vice President of Field Operations, Richard Young. That one looks interesting. We've got the head grower, another engineering person. So I can start making a list of potential contacts and the different buying influences that they would have. So engineering is going to be a technical buyer. Our field operations is going to be an operations buyer. You know, from Perplexity, we saw the new CEO and the CFO. They're going to be the financial buyers. Okay. So I think I want to look at the field operations. I think this would be a good person. You know, they've just come out of bankruptcy. They're looking at operational efficiency. I think operations is the right person to talk to about grow lights. So Richard Young. So let's open Richard's LinkedIn here. So click on that. We've got Richard here. Okay. So now we're switching from that company information where we've gone and we've understood the company details. Now we're going down into the next level of potential contacts. So I'm using LinkedIn now to go and understand who Richard is. And I've got a couple of tools that are integrated into my LinkedIn. So here you'll see view personality, and you've got this other one here, no personality. So just talk about these two tools really quickly, and then I'll show how they work. So the one that I'm going to demonstrate today is called Humanic.ai. And what this is it gives you a personality profile based on their LinkedIn profile. So it integrates and it can scrape the information from their LinkedIn profile and then create and do a DISC assessment. If you're familiar with DISC profiles, this tells you people's preferred working styles and communication styles. And so Humanic will give us a report on Richard, which I'll show in a minute. We can use this to customize how we engage in terms of written email and our conversation to make sure that we've got something that will be effective with Richard. There's a similar tool that is a little bit better known called Crystal Knows. You may have come across it before. It does a very similar thing. Both of these tools are well known and well respected in terms of giving accurate assessment of people's profiles, provided that there's sufficient information in their LinkedIn profile. So you may have come across people where there's like hardly any information in their LinkedIn profile. These don't work very well in that case because there just isn't enough details to be able to pull information on that. So typically works better if you've got a substantial about section for the person and a fairly lengthy experience history, especially if there's some descriptions of the work that they've done. Okay, so let's go back to Richard here. And sorry, I forgot to mention, with Crystal Knows, when you use it, you get 5 free assessments. And then they make you pay, and it's relatively expensive. I think it's, I don't know, about $100 a month, and you have to sign up for an annual subscription. So it's quite expensive. It's a big commitment. So I have not committed to that. And it's why I would look for an alternative. So Humanic is similar in that it has a limited number of access points for free, but then after that, it will give you, I think you get like 100 or something that you can assess for 7 days. So that's, I would recommend trying it out and seeing which one you like better. Anyway, the report here, so we've got 100% confidence that Richard is the disk archetype of Captain, which is a DS type. I don't know the disk profile super well, so I won't try to pretend I do. But what this does is it actually gives us information about how Richard presents himself to the world, his preferred communication styles. So if you're cold calling him, how to do that. You can also get how to write an email. You can get tips on qualifying or prospecting with him, and then also how to set expectations with him. So there's a whole bunch of details in here. What I really like about this is you can also download the PDF report. And so if you download that, what that report looks like is it gives you all that information in a single document. And so what's great about this is you can take this document and you can go load it into your favorite AI tool. I'm going to show how to do this with ChatGPT. You can take the profile, you can take the research we did about the company and some of the challenges they have and that contextual information, and then you can use it to customize your communication with this person. So I'm going to show how I do that with ChatGPT now. So for the sake of time, I ran this previously, and I'll just walk through the prompts here that I used. So I loaded up Richard's PDF report of his disk profile. And so I used a prompt, consider the attached document, analyze it, but don't do anything. Just let me know when you're ready for further instructions. And I did this because I want to add additional context to the conversation before the tool does anything. All right, so it told me it's ready. Then the next thing I did is I went back to our Perplexity searches and I pulled out contextual information about AeroFarms, their technology, their growth, the fact that they've gone through bankruptcy, some of the considerations on some of the common LED lighting issues that vertical farms have, suggestions about the engagement approach of how we would engage with an operations buyer, and then the fact that lighting is a very significant expense for operations. So it's all big paste here. You don't have to format it nicely or anything. You can just paste it in as copy paste out of Perplexity. So anyway, I won't go into all that, but that's all pasted in here for context. Let's review that. And then now I'm going to ask it to actually help me. So just before I do, I'm going to go back to my slides here for a second. So the issue we have here is I have a standard boilerplate sales email that I've used in the past and I've had poor success with because it's long, it's kind of boring. It talks all about the features of the LED lighting systems, but it's not customized or connected to the problems of the person I'm talking to. So I'd like to customize this. This is boring. Let's get rid of this and create something useful. So we're going to take all that information now that we collected, and put into ChatGPT, and we're going to ask it to go customize that email to be able to give us something much more effective. Okay, so first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to give it a bit of context about what I'm doing. So I sell high efficiency LED grow lights. They're 30% more efficient than leading products in the market. Describe how I should engage with Richard, given his role as VP of Field Operations and his background about the engagement approach based on the report that I uploaded. I was going to do that, and it gives me a guide on how I could prepare and engage with him, prepare for the engagement with him. So focus on results. Richard is very results focused. Make sure that he understands how the product's positioned, and then make sure that he feels like he's the expert in the conversation. Okay. We want to the point. We want to really focus on what is it? Why should he care? What's in it for him? Well, we're going to cut his energy costs. So we're not going to do a cold call, but some of these tips are useful for us as well. So anyway, there's a bunch of details here. So I could read through that. What I really wanted to do is I wanted to customize the email that I have. So let's ask it to do that. So I put in this command. I'd like to customize the following email for Richard. Please revise the email based on your suggested engagement approach. And all I've done is I've cut and pasted that email out of the slide deck that I showed you. And it's just exactly as it came through there. Okay. So it goes through and it's going to give me a revised email. So, hi, Richard. I want to introduce my lighting solution. Oh, sorry, I forgot subject. Unlock 30% energy savings. So to the point, we've captured his attention. I want to introduce my lighting solution to contribute to profitability and sustainability goals. So tie back to that bankruptcy. They're focused on profitability. So the high efficiency grow lights help reduce energy costs. Here's some things to consider. And then giving your focus on scaling the specific facility. So if we've gone through and read the bankruptcy information, they've shrunk down their operations and they're focusing on their flagship facility called in Danville. That is where they want to really increase the volume going through and are focused on efficiency and cost savings. So we're tying back to that. So this is how our solution could be cost effective and help with that profitability things. So, and then it's outreach. We want to just discuss how we might be able to work together with you. Let's discuss find a time for a 15-minute call. Okay, so this is one approach, but maybe I don't want to do the sales call. Maybe I want to do more of a relationship-based outreach. So let's change the tone and style a little bit here. So instead of that cold email, I really want to try and build a relationship with Richard. Now, the first way I would look at doing that is I look at my LinkedIn network and see if there's a connection I have in common with Richard. And I try to make a warm introduction that way. But if that doesn't exist, then I would try to use a softer sell email to do that outreach. So what I want to do is revise this email to let him know that I see him as an industry expert and a leader. And I want to learn more about how AeroFarms operates and then see if there's a connection with what we have with our efficient LED lighting and see if there's opportunities to work with him to reduce costs at his facilities. And then I want to make sure that the tone and style are aligned with the way that Richard prefers to be communicated with. And if there isn't enough information in his profile, I would prefer a to the point conversational tone, just to not send a long email that he's going to just skip over because it's too much to read. All right, so let's see what comes out here. So we've softened things a little bit. Instead of being to the point about like 30% cost savings, it suggested a little softer subject line. And then there's a bit of a conversation here about, okay, so we've been following AeroFarms' work, want to reach out to connect, want to understand your leadership in setting up benchmarks for sustainable agriculture and learn about your operations. Explain that we have this LED lighting technology, and then ask for an opportunity to understand how AeroFarms operates and their lighting systems, and see if there's opportunities to work together. still asking for just 15 minutes of his time. All right. Now, I didn't show it, but in Apollo with Richard, we can actually go and access his email. So we may not have his email there, but we can click on this button here and it will give us access to his email that's been scraped. And these are verified emails. But let's say he doesn't have any email information here and we want to reach out to him via LinkedIn instead. So we can also then take this and craft a LinkedIn message. So similar thing, a little bit more concise and easier to connect. So that allows us to send that with LinkedIn. Okay. So that's it for my demo. Any questions before I move on to the last bit of the presentation?
It's not a question, but someone wanted to thank you. Ian wanted to thank you for your time, and he's so excited about the tools. He's going to skip his lunch to play with them, and I feel the same way. These are so interesting.
Great. All right. Well, I just have a couple more slides left to wrap up, and then we can get into any other questions that might come up. So, any discussion of AI tools is incomplete if we don't talk about data privacy and security, ethics, and data accuracy. So I'm just going to touch on these really quickly, but these are important things to consider. So what I've shown you here, everything that I've done here around finding out about AeroFarms, finding out about Richard's background, this is all public information. If you start putting in private information or stuff you've collected from sales calls, you are putting your privacy at risk. So be aware of what you're putting into the system and be cautious about what you put in. Ideally, you would try to remove names in order to maintain privacy, especially if it's not public information. And you should be aware of what the privacy policies are for these tools. A tip that you can do to look at what companies can do with the data is in ChatGPT, go and load the privacy policy page and terms of use pages from your tools and ask it to give you a layman's terms of those policies and what they can do and can't do with your data. And then ask for any red flags. This is a quick and easy way for you to kind of get a sense of what's how safe this tool is and how well they respect privacy. The other thing you can do is look for SOC 2 compliance as well as compliance with other privacy regulations. In terms of ethical considerations, again, we're using public information. So other places that we could go and do research on is, I mentioned Perplexity allows you to search social networks. So you can go search X or Twitter, LinkedIn posting, Facebook. So you can go collect that information as well. Just be careful what you do with it though. Because it's public information doesn't mean that you have carte blanche to do whatever you want. There's still a consideration of should you use this? And that really comes down to your personal and organizational policies around how you use data in an ethical way. So just make sure you're aligned with that. And then finally, around data accuracy and reliability, as the question came up about how much can we trust what comes back in Perplexity, I would say it's the same level of trust you would have with Google search results. You can trust but verify. You need to make sure that these are good sources, that they are representing what you're wanting to research properly. And it's good to go in and actually, if you see something that doesn't look right, go and look at the underlying source and find out, did the AI tool take it out of context or misunderstand the information and use it in a way that doesn't connect back to the way that you had intended to use it. So there is that need. Just like if you had a junior employee write a report for you, you would want to double check that the information is correct and be able to go and track back to the original sources to confirm that it was done correctly. Okay, so just a quick recap here and some resources. So AI speeds up research. It saves time while gaining deeper insights. It gives your ability to personalization that being able to personalize boosts your engagement with your audience. So getting that tailored outreach really will resonate with your audience and give you a higher probability of getting a connection and a follow-up meeting. And then ultimately, these tools are going to help you drive your growth. As you build them into your workflows and be able to use them, it allows you to do so much more because you're saving that time that you would have been spending manually going and doing this research and finding this information. Or if you weren't doing that originally, now you can, which will then increase your results from that. As I mentioned, there's links here to the resources that I showed today, so you can feel free to access that. And I will also just want to highlight, if you enjoyed this session and you're curious about exploring a deeper integration of these tools into your business, with Circles of AI, we are piloting a new program called AI Readiness for Sales and Marketing. And as part of this, you get to, we'll walk you through how to do a readiness assessment to see whether you're ready to integrate these tools beyond personal use, but more into an integrated workflow into your company. Build a business case for doing that work, and then look at the tool integration roadmap, as well as hands-on training of these tools. So if you're interested, you can scan the QR code there, and we're signing up for the waitlist for January. So sign up for updates, please. All right, I know we're at the top of the hour here. I was hoping we'd have a bit of time for questions, but I'm happy to stick around and answer questions if anyone wants to ask any. There are QR codes here. You can access the slides from the first one. Connect with me on LinkedIn from the second one. And if you're interested in joining Circles of AI for our Friday communities play spaces, you can sign up with that last QR code. And thank you, everyone, for your time today. I appreciate this. And Megan, thank you for the opportunity.
No, thank you so much for coming. And just a note, this was recorded and we will send it out to everyone. So if you aren't scanning the codes right now, you will have another chance to connect and find all of these tools. I believe we have someone raising their hand right now. If there's a little time for questions, James?
Sure. Yeah, happy to stick around if folks want to stay for a bit.
Yeah, I just want to mention one of the tools, I think it was Apollo, had some inaccurate information about Aero Farms. They mentioned that Aero Farms was public, whereas Aero Farms attempted to go public through a special SPAC, but it didn't go public because they're burning through a lot of cash and they're actually struggling to keep up. And I think it was Apollo. They even mentioned a ticker on NASDAQ, which never happened. So that was very interesting that it came up with that false information. And another point I want to make was AI seemed to have a bias towards framing Aero Farms as a successful company, whereas in reality it is burning through a lot of cash and it needs to raise small amounts of cash just to stay afloat.
Yeah, well, and this is a great example of some of the things that you need to double check. So I'm brand new to the vertical farming market. Like, this was stuff I put together last night in a couple of hours. From I'll call it a naive perspective, this information looked pretty good. But if I'd actually spent the time to go deeper into it and go and look into it, and then also, as soon as I talk to Richard and start to find out some of those details, I would find out pretty quickly that what is being presented by Perplexity is maybe not reality. Now, the other thing is, remember that the information that these tools are drawing from is public information. So these are like PR news releases and stuff. So this is all very positive. There's a positive spin to this. So I would say it's not necessarily AI putting a positive spin. It's that the news releases and the what they call it, when a company's doing all their PR. But that's the stuff. There's spin in this, that it's taking that tone and including it.
That is all. Thank you so much, James, and thank you everyone for joining for Founder Fridays. It's really great to be back, and we'll make sure to email you all about the next session. this will be or this has been recorded, and I'll make sure to send it out so everyone has access to all of these tools. Have a great rest of your day, everyone.
All right.